Bruce Oster, president of Coast to Coast. I first met Mike Minori in April of 2007. In January that year, I was put in charge of Coast to Coast. The company was struggling at the time, which frankly is why they made a change in management. I learned there was a big customer in the West, a group called Colorado River Adventures, that did not do business with Coast. They were another group like Ocean Canyon that owns a lot of membership campgrounds. I wanted to understand why. So I made a trip to visit the area with my partner in running the Coast business for the last 14 years, Eileen McKee, who is also a very good friend of mine. And on April 12th, 2007, I met Mike Minori. It didn't start as a friendly meeting, as Mike was pretty frustrated with my company. And as Peter said, he wasn't good at hiding things like that. So, but it was the beginning of a relationship with Mike that meant the world to both Eileen and me. Because instead of telling us what we wanted to hear, Mike always told us what we needed to hear. Time and time again in our relationship with Mike, he let us know when we were headed in the wrong direction and tried to get us back on the right path. And that is what he did at this meeting, as he shared all his frustrations about Coast with us. And I had to admit that he was right about most of the things he said. Eileen and I did a lot of listening, and I took a lot of notes. I actually kept those notes and referred to them, found them the other day and referred to them in writing his remarks. When Mike realized that we were listening, his attitude really changed. And he opened up and laid out a path for Coast to earn his business back. And this was my first introduction to what Peter, in his very eloquent and moving eulogy for Mike, called Mikeisms. The most memorable one for me at this first meeting was when Mike told us what a mistake it was for Coast to be charging for the resorts for Coast marketing materials for their sales rooms. He said, "You were stepping over dollars to pick up dimes." I'd never heard that expression before, but I realized he was right about this. So when I returned to the office, I told the group that we would no longer charge resorts for these materials, and to this day we still don't, thanks to Mike. Some of the other Mikeisms that I remember from that meeting. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in this industry, and you all are wasting time talking about getting a ladder. Just shake the tree. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly, which I saw was like back a year, which I liked. And this is probably my favorite because I have never heard this one before. But he says, I think he's talking about sales, right? Every day we go out to catch Moby Dick, and we always take the tartar sauce. So Mike offered us a new start, which to this day I thank him for. Colorado River Adventures began selling Coast again, and even became our top seller several years later. Fast forward a year or so, and on one of our visits to Colorado River, Eileen and I learned that Mike was no longer working there. I told Eileen we should find out if he was still in the area and have dinner with him. I was thinking, gosh, he might need help finding his next job. Yeah, boy was I wrong. We did have dinner with Mike, and he told us he was striking out to start his own campground resort company. He said he had worked for 2 companies in this business and had made both of them a fortune, but he said, in quotes, and I quote, "This one's for me." And next thing we knew, Mike found a great partner in Peter Grafman. He founded Ocean Canyon Properties, and they started buying campgrounds. Mike helped us out a lot over the years in our business relationship, and he was instrumental in helping to convince our chairman, Marcus Lemonis, to launch a new Coast product, Coast Premier, with free camping as a benefit. That actually happened in a meeting at the Grand Hyatt Hotel at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport in 2012, and it was Mike's impassioned plea to Marcus that closed the deal. And once again, Mike put us on the right path, as Coast Premier has become the most important product that we have in our Coast lineup. Today, Ocean Canyon Properties has grown to become our number 2 seller, and in recent weeks has reached number 1. Mike, always the competitor, would have loved it. In reflecting on our relationship with Mike, in many ways Mike became the compass for Coast to Coast. Time after time, Mike got us pointed in the right direction, and if we started to stray off course, Mike was the first one to let us know. It is a relationship that we were fortunate to have and really we will greatly miss. Speaking of Eileen McKee, she is attending a wedding for a family member this weekend. Otherwise, she was planning to be here. She sends her love and regards to everyone, and in particular to Amy. Eileen and I talked many times about what a blessing it was for Mike to have Amy in his life. And we know how much he treasured your relationship and the time you spent together. Because Eileen could not be here, she asked me to read a few words for her about Mike. So from Eileen. Mike Penori was not only a leader in the membership camping industry, he was an educator, an innovator, a creator, an advisor, and this is my favorite, a cheerleader, and which he was. Mike gave all of us reason to believe in the future of the industry. Mike always knew the member experience was key. Mike gave me the education and example of a true leader. Mike and Eileen had a pretty special relationship, as Peter has talked about, and talked just about every day. When Mike learned that Eileen was planning to retire, the first thing he did, of course, was to tell her that she couldn't do that. But when he realized she was going to do it anyway, just a few weeks before he passed away, he asked his staff to create a Lifetime Achievement Award for Eileen to recognize her for her many contributions to Coast and Ocean Canyon and the membership camping industry. He did it, I was told by Sherry, because he felt Eileen deserved the recognition, and he was going to be sure she received it. Here's what Mike engraved on Eileen's award. Eileen, this is for a lifetime of dedicated service to our industry, and I, for one, on behalf of Ocean Canyon Properties, present you this Lifetime Achievement Award. God bless you in your new retirement adventure, 2021. Eileen received the award a few weeks after Mike passed away, and she cried a lot. When she called me to tell me about it, she was still crying. And her husband, Bill, who never cries, cried too when he read the award. The award is proudly displayed on her mantle, and when I talked to Eileen this week, she told me that she can finally look at the award without crying. I think it says a lot about the person that Mike was that they took the time to do this for Eileen. In closing, I want to thank Mike for all he did in these past 14 years for me, for Eileen, and for Coast to Coast. His contributions to our success are numerous. He kept us on course, and we are a much more successful company because of his advice and counsel. I lost my dad in 2008, and I still think about him all the time and the lessons that he taught me. Whenever I'm going through a tough time, I always ask myself, what would Dad do? I think for me, for Coast, and for Ocean Canyon Properties, Mike tried to put us all on the right path. So as we move forward, Mike will always be right there with us if we just stop and ask, what would Mike do?